The Watership Down podcast is intended for listeners who are familiar with the plot. There may be spoilers. This episode is scripted by Newell Fisher with script assistance by John Ruths and is narrated, recorded and edited by Newell Fisher. Hello and welcome to the Watership Down podcast episode 88, in which we will be going through section 27 of the 1978 film, The Battle of Watership Down, Part 2. First though, I've had this interesting reaction from Captain of Owsla John Ruths following my opening the can of worms over the death of Blackavar in last week's episode. I also didn't take in at the time that it was Black History Month here in the UK, so it was actually quite appropriate. I seem to remember managing the same kind of forgetfulness with the Doze episode around International Women's Day. Seems my calendar is on a 1 week time delay. Anyway, John says, quote, "Just listened earlier today to the first part of the Battle of Watership Down. Super show, and I liked how you pointed out the maybe likely trope of a black actor voicing Blackavar who then died in a died first sort of way. Can of worms indeed opened. Plenty of tropes, stereotypes here in the UK with black actors and other ethnicities as well from that time. Mid-60s on through the 80s, I'd say. Black characters often seemed to play in a way that seemed like overacting, but I recognise as what a director was likely looking for. Walk this way, talk this way, etc. Things that often accentuated how people were different rather than the greater number of reasons on how we're the same. So many reasons for this, some well-intentioned, others not so much. Here in the US, you'd also often see a white person playing a Native American in a movie when Native American actors were available. In Watership Down 78, it was interesting that someone who is black played a character who is not only the colour black, but has that word in his name. One of those more unusual Watership Down names that does not relate to a plant in any way, as is more normal for rabbits. Many things were done that were truly offensive, but maybe not on purpose, but often I believe was, and mostly because folks did not really think things through. How would this look be perceived? Is there anyone who might feel slighted by this? Our culture is more sensitive now, but other odd things are happening. You can now see black characters living in perfect harmony in a production portraying the past, when things were not truly that way. Attempts are now being made to make everything look as inoffensive and politically correct as possible, but maybe in a way that portrays things very inaccurately and ignores the very real struggles that a group of folks had. Tough stuff to gauge, and even harder to discuss because people can get the wrong idea very easily. I'm deliberately speaking very broadly on this, but believe you know what I mean. I also think that you and I are cut from the same cloth when it comes to human equality, in that all humans are equal. It's a tough time for my nation right now on that very subject. Lots of angst that lies just under the surface for many folks." End quote. Thank you for those comments, John. I guess even a film about rabbits cannot necessarily avoid human concerns and sensitivities, especially as it is still made by and for humans. Overall, the 1978 film of Watership Down has aged remarkably well, all things considered. Probably largely precisely because it is about rabbits, but also because it is just very good filmmaking. And that always ages well. But no film can entirely avoid the times in which it is made. So, having seen one rabbit killed so far in the Battle of Watership Down, let's see how many more have to die before the film reaches its denouement. Section 27. The Battle of Watership Down, Part 2. This section covers from 79 minutes 40 to 82 minutes 20, and the equivalent chapters from the book are 46, Bigwig Stands His Ground, and 47, The Sky Suspended. Chapters 49, Hazel Comes Home, and 50, and last, are not used in the film. So now we come down to it. The climax of the film Watership Down, 1978. As we rejoin the action after Hazel's seeming rescue from the farm cat, the heavy, ponderous music of the attack on the Warren on Watership Down restarts. We see Woundwort, his face and front paws blooded, prowling the Warren looking for more kills. Pipkin appears briefly at the gap at the right hand of one of two mostly blocked holes. Woundwort immediately leaps at him, but he is already gone. We see the blocking earth wall from the other side as Woundwort pushes through it easily. Pipkin gets away just in time. Back outside now. We're in the lane leading to Nuthanger Farm. The music has not changed. We see Dandelion run past, dodging from side to side in the lane. The barking dog is close behind him. The camera pans up to the distant tree on Watership Down. Back in the warren. A scared Pipkin is backing up a run, staring at the terrible sight of General Woundwort. He turns tail and runs, putting some distance between them. We see him navigate a double bend in the run before stopping to glance behind him. His breathing, we see, is panicked and very heavy, but he is leading the General on well. The music is building to something. Back in the lane now. Dandelion dodges into a bush by the side of the lane. He re-emerges and runs in a circle around the dog. He seems to be deliberately infuriating him to make sure he keeps following. Back at the warren. As soon as Woundwort appears around the corner of the run, Pipkin is off again, leading him further in. Woundwort's pace is like that of a tank pursuing infantry. Woundwort rounds another corner, just as we see Pipkin disappear. The music is still building. Woundwort is walking over freshly dug earth. We see Pipkin, now at the end of his apparent escape route, facing the General and backing away. Behind him are Fiver and 3 does. As far as Woundwort is concerned, he has now cornered 2 small bucks and 2 does. This is possibly his most contemptible moment. We see him finally for what he really is, a murderous thug, equally prepared to kill the defenceless. But Pipkin's trap is about to be sprung. Woundwort steps forward. Then he hesitates and looks down. Too late. The buried bigwig launches himself from underneath Woundwort, biting him on his chest, from what I can see, rather than immediately inflicting the leg wound he does in the book. The force of the attack throws Woundwort onto his back with Bigwig on top of him. They scratch at each other frenziedly. We see Pipkin covering his face with a paw at the dreadful sight. Behind him, Fiver and the 2 does look on in horror. But then, just as Fiver draws back in fear, Pipkin lowers his paw and makes himself watch, drawing back a bit again, before planting his paw back on the ground. His fearful look is replaced with one of anger. This is the face of a small rabbit who might just be prepared to do a blackavar if need be. Such is the hatred Woundwort inspires. And now Woundwort is up on his hind feet. He rakes viciously at Bigwig's face, opening up a large wound under his left eye. The sound in this shot is visceral. The brass music has broken out into its fighting theme. Meanwhile, we hear the grunting and tearing of a close-quarters fight to the death. And now we are in the lane leading to Nuthanger again. Dandelion dodges behind the tree stump to the left, making a straggly white-flowered weed wave about. Blackberry is out in the open on the right, ready. We do not see Dandelion in the film again. The dog sticks its head into the foliage, its tail actually wagging. It cannot be far from where Dandelion is trying to go to ground. It still hasn't seen Blackberry, who leaps away. The dog looks up, possibly only hearing him start running. Instantly, it is after Blackberry, its face angry again. This is the second rabbit it has seen now. This dog is getting riled up. It is ready to kill. In a tracking shot, we see it right on the heels of Blackberry. Back at the warren now. Woundwort, with an echoing cry, launches himself at Bigwig. We see his mouth from underneath at an angle, his face scratched, his lips covered in a pink foam, a mixture of froth and blood. Bigwig now, crouched low, looking to his side, his face a mask of hatred. He launches himself upwards and to his side. Another shot of Woundwort's throat. Bigwig connects, sinking his teeth into it and tearing away. They both collapse to the floor side by side, biting and clawing at each other. A close-up on their powerful back legs as Bigwig, just scratched himself, inflicts deep scratches on Woundwort's side. We see Pipkin again with Fiver and the 2 does. He shrinks away and raises his paw again as Fiver shrinks back. And now there is a pause in the fight. The music stops. Woundwort leans against the side of the run, clearly exhausted. Bigwig is hunched on his right side on the other side of the run, he too clearly exhausted. We see the view of them from Pipkin's vantage point. And now we see the battered, bleeding and exhausted Bigwig from Woundwort's point of view, his mouth also surrounded with pink froth. Bigwig says to Woundwort that he once told him he was trying to impress him. He hopes he has. I think it is fair to say he has succeeded. But Woundwort simply responds that he told Bigwig he would kill him himself, that there is no white bird here, though he betrays himself with a backward glance as he says the second part. With that, he raises his front paws and resumes his attack. We are back outside, at the bottom of the lane leading to Nuthanger. The urgent music returns. We see Blackberry run across the road, the dog hard on his heels, and now through the rapeseed field. He arrives at the iron tree and goes to ground at the base of its westerly foot, where Heisenthal is hiding. She immediately runs towards the foot of the scarp slope. But there is a problem. The dog, tired maybe, has lost interest. The music slows to a slow, tense theme. He stares after Heisenthal for a moment, then turns back, sniffing at the foot of the southernmost leg, the one where we saw Heisenthal hide as she was left by Hazel, Dandelion and Blackberry. So why did she move to the westernmost leg? And how did Blackberry know she was there instead? Or did he just hide at the foot of the first leg he came to, and it was just a coincidence she had moved there? I smell a continuity error. In any case, the dog, having had a sniff of the southernmost leg, decides to relieve itself against it. He has definitely lost interest. We see Heisenthal begin running up the scarp, but then she hesitates and turns. There is no dog chasing her. In a close-up we see her look on, horrified. The dog has picked up a scent. He is moving back towards the western leg where the exhausted Blackberry is hiding. We see Heisenthal move back down the slope. She has to get the dog's attention. Just as she reaches the fence, a couple of partridges are put up in panic. The dog is just about to discover Blackberry. If he kills him, his bloodlust may be sated. They need him hungry for a kill. But the sound of the two birds distracts him at this crucial moment. He turns and sees Heisenthal, and we do not see Blackberry again. We see the dog cross the fence line and begin pursuing Heisenthal up the scarp. Woundwort has Bigwig on his back. Bigwig tears at his haunches desperately as Woundwort bites at his throat. We see Pipkin, Fiver and the two does retreat even further back into the run, probably anticipating Woundwort killing Bigwig. Sadly, this is our last sight of Fiver in the film. Bigwig, though, re-emerges, still intent on seeing the fight to its bitter end. Somehow Bigwig is back on his feet. He and Woundwort have locked front paws in an embrace of death. The music at this point is extraordinary. There is a brass-based theme that seems more at home in a Hammer horror film as we see Woundwort push Bigwig back. In close-up, we see Bigwig's legs start to slide down the side of the very pit he was buried in order to give him the element of surprise. But then Bigwig acts like a true tactician. Having reached such a disadvantageous place, he shoves Woundwort before turning tail, scuffing dirt in Woundwort's face and retreating to behind this pit. In a space as narrow as this, he now has the high ground again. This is urban warfare, where the slightest dip or elevation can confer a huge advantage, and Woundwort seems to know it. Shaking the dust from his face, he advances cautiously. Bigwig is now at the threshold of what we can now see is a burrow entrance, or at least a far narrower run. We see Pipkin behind him, terrified. He seems to have little room to move. With a shout of frustrated anger, Woundwort appears at the entrance. He asks Bigwig why he is throwing his life away. This film's truncated version of the lies he spins to try to get Bigwig to give up in the book once he realises he cannot beat him. But in the film, Woundwort may yet have more left in him. Bigwig's response is a single word in Lapine with a scatological meaning. Behind him, Pipkin looks desperately to his left, perhaps checking the others, perhaps seeing there is any chance of escape. Incongruously, Woundwort says, "Come out." Why would he? What possible reason has been given to Bigwig to do so? He hasn't been offered the command of a mark back at Ephrafa, as in the book. Woundwort's desperation here is entirely without context. But none of that matters now. For Bigwig is about to deliver his coup de grace, which will be every bit as devastating to Woundwort as in the book. We see Bigwig from the front, covered with blood, exhausted, panting but determined, as he informs Woundwort that his chief has told him to defend this run. With a slight air of melodrama used to convey the significance quickly, Woundwort looks from side to side in sudden incredulity as he says, "Your chief?" But there is no time here to go into the details of Woundwort's shock at the mere idea that Bigwig, the rabbit who bested him, is not the chief. No time to try to imagine from his narrow-minded perspective what Bigwig's chief might be like. The chief he has already met and let go. For the results of that chief's cunning have just arrived on Watership Down. Above ground we see Campion with another rabbit see the approaching dog. He cries out to his comrades in arms to run for your lives. As they disappear to the right, we see Heisenthal appear from the left, and looking at the shot frame by frame, it is definitely her. She is calmer than any Afrafan attacker has any right to be at this moment, as she weaves right then left, disappearing out of shot in the foreground as the slavering jaws of a dog in kill mode fill the screen. Heisenthal presumably knows where to go to escape death. Woundwort's Afrafans do not. We see Woundwort hearing the commotion from outside. We see him turn to leave his fight with Bigwig. The music has become a strident, militarised version of the optimistic theme that accompanied the arrival of our heroes on Watership Down. It is a theme that will accompany one of the most brutal scenes in the entire film. But that doesn't matter, because this will also be a scene of utter triumph for our heroes. The dog arrives at the foot of the tree on Watership Down. We see 5 Afrafans scatter in panic. 2 dodge to the left of the tree, 2 to the right. The one who hesitates is grabbed by the dog's jaws instantly and is rapidly bitten and shaken to death before being thrown to the side. This is apparently authentic behaviour for a dog with medium-sized prey. It is done to break the back so that prey can be returned to when the killing frenzy is over. The rabbit lands a short distance away, a huge gash in its side, flowing with blood. And now the dog goes after the 2 who gambled on the right side of the tree. The one nearer to him darts right, saving its life apparently. The other one tries to run away in the dog's line of sight. Big mistake. In blind terror, he tries to dodge the dog by running in a circle. As he completes the first circuit, he seems to slip on the ground. This is all it takes for him to lose his life. With even more frenzy, this rabbit is pinned, bitten and shaken in the dog's mouth until its blood sprays. Then it is thrown in the air as the dog moves on to the next kill, left and towards the tree, before the newly dead rabbit even hits the ground. The faces of these victims of the dog have abandoned any pretence of naturalism as they die in terror. They are animated in a style that is more Tom and Jerry than observation of nature, all huge unnatural eyes and simplified facial expressions, which makes their brutal deaths all the more shocking. And now we see the tree again. 2 terrified Afrafans run past. We do not know how much time has passed. However, Woundwort is emerging, it seems, from the hole on the northern side of the tree where we saw the dog's first kill. The dog may have had time to pursue a few more rabbits. Woundwort jumps out of the hole and delivers his final, utterly deluded advice to his troops. That they are fools who should come back and fight, because apparently dogs aren't dangerous. The fast-paced music has stopped. As he delivers this last pearl of wisdom, the dog presents a counterpoint, rounding the tree behind him with the bloody corpse of a rabbit in its mouth. It sees Woundwort. Woundwort sees the dog, and he does look scared for a moment. Casting its apparent latest victim aside, it charges towards Woundwort. Time slows down. We are treated to the eye view of a rabbit about to be killed by a dog as its bloody mouth fills the shot. But Woundwort, to his credit, meets this end as if he were just fighting a rabbit. We see him, also in slow motion, leaping towards the dog in full attack mode. We see this sight from underneath him, as we did underground earlier, as the sun appears behind him, shrouded in cloud. Is this Frith looking on? Woundwort, bloody and clearly insane, is flying through the air at the dog. There is a final musical flourish. Woundwort passes across the view of the camera and into history. Comparison with the book. As usual, the equivalent events in the book are more complex and take longer. The beginning of the fight between Woundwort and Blackberry comes in chapter 46, Bigwig stands his ground, after Woundwort and his initial raiding party, which includes Vervain, drop into the honeycomb from above. There they discover the unconscious Fiver, who has had to be left behind, unlike in the film. Bigwig's plan is as much a mystery to the reader as it is to the Afrafans at this point. We learn of it as the Efrathans start to break down the far more substantial wall that has been put up to hold them at bay. The one rabbit attack we see in the film is very different in this regard. We then learn of the plan of the Watership Down rabbits in flashback. Brave little Pipkin offered to stay with Fiver, but was told no by Holly, who has already appeared for the last time in the film. We then return to the present as Woundwort orders all the blocked runs leading off the honeycomb opened before making his way into the run from behind which he heard noises. Bigwig's initial attack is deliberately targeted at Woundwort's leg and is highly effective. In the book, we then get a very detailed account of the far more tactical fight than is seen in the film, which I will not detail here. For more on that, I refer you to episode 48. The break in the fight, during which Bigwig says he hopes he has impressed Woundwort, happens towards the end of chapter 46, after which there is more fighting, during which it becomes clear that Bigwig's initial attack on his leg is now taking effect. The chapter ends with Bigwig realising he can see the outline of Woundwort as the sun comes up, a reminder that this fight has happened in complete darkness. Only in chapter 47 do we learn what happened after the freeing of the dog. Hazel's fate remains a mystery. We get a lot of detail on Dandelion just trying to get the dog out of the farmyard, during which she has to go to ground and has a brief conversation with a rat who is puzzled at Dandelion's wish to be pursued. Having got clear of the farm and recovered from his initial panic, Dandelion leads the dog across a field to the road, not down the lane, where he meets Blackberry. Blackberry half leads, half tracks the dog to the foot of the down. It is not a simple pursuit. This is why a recovered Dandelion is actually able to catch up with Blackberry, and they ascend the scarp slope together, and now it is a simple pursuit. Back in the warren, Holly urges the exhausted Bigwig to let him take his place, but this is far too much of a risk. Behind him he hears Bluebell telling the does a tale of El Herrera. Woundwort then attempts to talk Bigwig out with promises of power back at Ephrathah. Bigwig's response is even more graphic than in the film, involving the consumption of droppings. This exchange is interspersed with the continuing story very effectively. As his attack recommences, an earlier wound to Woundwort's nose means that he cannot maintain a hold on Bigwig. Bigwig is left by a Woundwort who knows he has been bested. He is delirious, but snaps out of it to realise Woundwort is gone. Woundwort, shockingly, sends Vervain in to finish off Bigwig, but Vervain is soon back with some grit in his eye. And Bigwig has now regained all the lost ground in the run they were fighting in. It is now, when Woundwort tries to point out that they can find other ways in, that Bigwig reveals he is not chief. And then Fiver comes round, and with no fear at all, apologises to the sadistic Vervain for his imminent death, terrifying him. Back above ground, Woundwort tries to plan a final assault. And then the dog arrives, heralded by a running campion. We do not get an account of the deaths immediately, nor do we get Woundwort's heroic suicidal leap. He is simply heard by the fleeing Owsla screaming about dogs not being dangerous. Chapter 48, Dea Ex Machina, only has one line in the film that we have already heard, as Lucy the farm girl told the cat Tab to leave Hazel alone. All of the detail of Hazel's incredible return to the down in a Hrududu is missing, as are chapters 49, Hazel Comes Home, and 50, and Last. Sadly, we do not get another chance to meet our rabbit heroes. Except for one of them. Next time, we meet Hazel again and reach the end of Watership Down, 1978.